Today's reading lesson is about genre. Our learning goal today is we are learning about genre, and our success criteria is I will be successful when I can tell the difference between a fiction and a non-fiction text. Now, what is genre, you might ask? Let's have a look. To put it simply, genre is a style or category of literature. Now, when you hear the word literature, you automatically think books, but it could also encompass things like films and audio as well. Now, genre is broken up into two major categories, the first one being fiction. Now, a fiction is a made-up story with characters and setting, and it normally has a problem that the story revolves around. Now, non-fiction is the opposite, the other side of the scale. Non-fiction is literature that contains facts and information about the world around us. Now for the next part of our lesson. How can you tell the difference between a fiction and a non-fiction text? Well, normally you can tell before even opening up the book if it's a fiction or non-fiction text. Here I have The Gruffalo by Julia Donaldson, and on the front cover you have your illustration and a title. They're the two things that you're going to look at. The title, The Gruffalo, okay, sounds made up, so I'm thinking it's a fiction text, but I'm also going to look at the front cover illustration or photograph just to double check. Now, on the front cover of my text I have two main characters, Mouse and the Gruffalo. So I'm deducing that this is going to be a story that centers around these two main characters. Characters. If I go back to my whiteboard, I remember that I underlined the word characters. So I think that this is going to be a fiction text. Now, what about this book here, Polar Bear Cubs? Think about the title, Polar Bear Cubs. I know if I look back at my whiteboard that a non-fiction text contains information and facts about things that are around you. Well, polar bear cubs, I know that they're real. And I'm also looking at the front cover. It is a photograph, different to an illustration that was on my fiction text. So I'm deducing that polar bear cubs is actually a non-fiction text because it has facts and information about polar bear cubs. Alright, now to practice before we move on to our independent activities. This first book here, Figuring Out Fossils. Do you think this is a fiction or a non-fiction text? If you said it is a non-fiction text, you are correct. Looking at the title, Figuring Out Fossils, I know fossils are something in real life, and I can also see by the front cover that it is a photograph. What about this text here, Mega Princess? Is this a fiction or a non-fiction text? If you said fiction, you are correct. Mega Princess leads me to believe it is a made-up story, and that is confirmed by the illustration on the front cover. What about this book here, An Animal Community? Is this a fiction or a non-fiction text? If you said non-fiction, you are correct. An Animal Community, I can tell, is a book about animals living in communities, and on the front cover it is a photograph. What about this text here, Scaredy Squirrel Has a Birthday Party? Is that a fiction or a non-fiction text? If you said fiction, you are correct. I can tell by the title, Scaredy Squirrel, sounds like a character. This is a fiction text. Now that is also confirmed by the illustration on the front cover of the book. Now before we move on to the activities that you could complete at home independently, I do want to mention one thing. Sometimes books can trick you by putting an illustration on the front cover of a non-fiction text, where you would normally expect to find a photograph. Now, this book here, The Tree Lady by Joseph Hopkins. Looking at the front cover of this book, you would maybe assume that it is a fiction text. The Tree Lady doesn't sound very specific, and there is an illustration as the front cover. However, if you actually open up the book, you would read facts about a woman named Kate Sessions, who created a beautiful park in one of San Diego's driest deserts. So if you think that you might be getting confused by the front cover and the title of the text, open it up, have a look. You'll be able to tell very quickly whether it is a real or a fake book. Now moving on to independent activities that you could do at home. The first activity you could do would be create two anchor charts, one for fiction and one for non-fiction. Write a sentence that details what a fiction text is and what a non-fiction text is. Underneath, you could draw pictures of your favourite fiction and non-fiction texts. Another activity you could do at home independently would be to sort your home library into fiction and non-fiction texts. Gather up all the fiction, made-up stories you can find and put them in a pile. Get all the non-fiction texts that you can find in your house and put them in a separate pile. Get an adult or an older sibling to help you or confirm if you are correct. Instead of physically sorting these books into two piles, older students could do this activity a little bit differently. They could write down the title of the book, draw the front cover, and then also answer whether it is a fiction or non-fiction text and why. Another way that you could link this to another subject, like maths, is to create a graph based on the amount of fiction and non-fiction text you have in your house. Alright guys, that brings our lesson on genre to a conclusion. Were you successful today? Did you meet that success criteria? Are you able to now tell the difference between a fiction and a non-fiction text? I hope you have a lovely day and I'll see you next time. Bye!